Okay, good morning. I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners for September 10th, and we will start with a salute to the flag. Mr. Sam Dene, sir, will you lead us this morning?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Certainly, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Madam,
That's quite all right.
Mr. Clerk, I beg your pardon. Derek, I didn't see you sneak in. I
you know,
apologize. I'm a little in a fog over here.
I'm subtle over here.
I've had a cold for a week. I apologize.
Vaughn Hartung, Chair.
Present.
Bob Lucy, Vice Chair, is absent. Marcia Burkbigler.
Here.
Kitty Jung.
Present.
Jeannie Herman is absent. Interim County Manager David Solaro.
Here.
Assistant District Attorney Paul Liparelli.
Here.
And I am your Deputy Clerk, Derek Sonderfan. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment. Tomorrow is the 18th anniversary of 9/11. And I mean, it was an extremely devastating event. We lost on that day nearly 3,000. But what most people don't realize, and I was just looking these numbers up last night. Thank you. I was looking these numbers up last night, and nearly 10,000 first responders and others in the World Trade Center that day have been diagnosed with cancer. It's a devastating scenario. I'd like to just take a moment of silence before we get started to honor all of those first responders. And it's not just fire and police, by the way. It was Port Authority, FBI agents, CIA. Ambulance drivers. People who were just bystanders became first responders. So I'd like to just take a moment and acknowledge everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Clerk, and again, please forgive my raspy voice today. Would you call public comment?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. First, we have Ms. Tammy Holt-Still, followed by Mr. Charles Stockford. And can we please have the overhead?
Welcome, Ms. Holt-Still.
Good morning. Tammy Holt-Still, Lemon Valley Swan Lake Recovery Committee for the record. I'm going to start off with, back on the 28th of August, I requested a certified copy of the testing that was brought to our attention during Dwayne Smith testimony. I still have not received it. Instead, I received an email saying, go to this link, and it gave me a lot of arbitrary information and not the certified showing from the testing agency that tested the water the exact information, and I expect to see it. It should be for public record. Second of all, the contract that was out there, supposedly, for North Valley's Investments to put that Class C effluent onto the other properties from Swan Lake. I asked for it. It supposedly has not been completed yet. But yet, there are photos where I had told you guys this was going to happen. You start pumping Class C effluent on that red pine field, you are going to end up, if we had a thunderstorm, that is somebody's property, and see how close the water is? Well, the next one shows right there, it breached onto their property. That Class C effluent breached onto their property. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I talked to NDEP. For some reason, they're covering your guys' derrieres, but in the NAC, Class C effluent must have a buffer zone. Must have a buffer zone. The buffer zone is supposed to be 100 feet. Was that 100 foot? Was it also marked as affluent? No. Was it have a barrier or protection around it like your sewer plant? No. Now, these people have contaminated areas because of it. And let's go back to when I testified a while ago about the wind pushing Swan Lake over the HESCO barriers, and we're all driving through it. That's a violation. Now I will find somebody to help me take care of the state and the county for violating their own regulations and not protecting the citizens of our valley. We are not a third world country. We are the North Valleys, and we're part of the United States, and we have every right to be protected, and you should be doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Charles Stockford, followed by Mr. J.D. Klippenstein.
Mr. Stockford, welcome, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'm down here to thank you for the efforts you made up on Quartz Lane, which is half of it got done. The other half is just getting worse. The part that you did real good on has slipped right back into the mess. Not as bad as it was, but it's bad. You wouldn't want to have to live and drive through that mess every day. They dumped stuff up on Quartz Lane. I went through the first day they dumped it, and I found addresses and names of the people that dumped that stuff. I mean, it had their kids' names for assignments, they had to clean this and do that, chores around the house. They had cards for health care from Costco's where they worked, and they got a Cadillac sitting in their driveway, had the address on all this stuff. I turned it over to the sheriff's department. I never heard a word, and we ended up cleaning up the mess. Since then, there's been another one dumped. And there again, I found the address and the names of the people, and I went down to the sheriff's department and turned it in myself, and they said they'd call me back. Well, it's been about 2 weeks since I turned that one in, and the stuff is still there. The people didn't come and clean up their mess, and this is going on and on. The upper part of Quartz Lane, where you cleaned up so nice, there's a motorhome with 2 or 3 people living in it, right on the street, no hookups. There's a guy living in a truck that's been there for a year and a half that I know of. He even wheels one of the garbage cans out behind his truck, and they dump it each week. There's a car with a girl and a guy living in it, right there on the street. Nothing seems to get done about it. I would like somebody to readdress this problem and do something about the other half of Quartz Lane that never did get cleaned up. And it's just getting worse. There's a trailer up there that they packed with garbage from the house that the people got evicted out of, that were squatters, and they packed all their garbage into this trailer to where you can't get anything else in it. And they then went across the street and put their garbage in trailers, like luggage trailers, and spread the garbage around. It's off their side of the street, but it's still down there. So I thought I'd stop in here today and let you know. It's been a year since I turned in that petition with over 100 names on it, and they're asking me, what's happening? Nothing seems to be getting done up here. Well, I thought I'd stop in and address this situation again. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stockford.
Next up, we have Mr. J.D. Klippenstein, followed by Mr. Michael Pitkin.
While Mr. Klippenstein is making his way to the podium, would all of you ensure that your cell phones are silenced in respect for the speakers? Thank you.
Good morning, County Commissioners. Again, my name is J.D. Klippenstein. I'm the Executive Director of Action. And as usual, I have many other folks here with me, leaders with Action and other community partners. At this point, I'm going to ask them to stand with me in support. So we're here today with a very simple message: fund the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We were really encouraged by your leadership that you took when you established the Housing Trust Fund back in March, but you know as well as I that an unfunded housing trust fund really isn't good for anything. We also know that you are in the midst of updating aspects of your master plan, identifying critical funding needs, and I'm sure having really challenging conversations about the revenue and resources necessary to meet those needs. We are here today to implore you to keep the Affordable Housing Trust Fund at the top of your priority list in any conversations moving forward about planning or the way that revenue can be used. I'm hard pressed to think of a more critical need than affordable housing in our community. The regional strategy for housing affordability was recently completed by the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency. It was presented to the Regional Governing Board already, and I believe it's set to be presented to this body sometime at the end of September. That report identifies a current gap of 25,000 units available to low-income renters. It will take us nearly a century to address that gap at the current level of resources we have available to build housing that's affordable to low-income residents. That is why the report also identifies the creation and funding of an affordable housing trust fund as one of the top policy priorities that you and other local elected leaders should pursue in order to meet this pressing need. I know that you face some tough decisions. I know that there are people with lots of opinions about where we need to go in the midst of a growing community. But there is a reason that over 1,000 Washoe County residents have filled these chambers over the past year in support of affordable housing. We are faced with a crisis that demands a response. And those thousands of people who have come and connected with you, the hundreds of stories that we have heard about people struggling with housing insecurity, believe that choosing to ignore affordable housing, choosing to not support solutions for our affordable housing crisis would be a true failure of leadership. And we hope, trust, and pray that you will have the courage and vision to rise to the occasion and to make a lasting impact in our community by supporting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Michael Pitkin, followed by Mr. Levi Hooper. And can we please get the overhead?
Welcome, Mr. Pitkin.
My name is Michael Pitkin. This is my 4-year history in Reno, Nevada. Please note my Section 8 1-year lease, HAP contract, September 14, 2016, $605. Rent increase, 6/15, October 1st, 2017, 9 months. Management ownership sold February 28th, 2018. 4-month gap lease, June 1st, 2018. HAP contract, October 1st, 2018. Rent increase, $738, 6-month lease. HAP contract, April 1st, 2019, 6-month lease. Second management change, July 1st, 2019. HAP contract, October 1st, 2019. Rent increase, $878, 6-month lease. I ask you use this real example to create a workable law to protect tenants against unreasonable rent increases. I also ask this example be sent to the state of Nevada so as to create a state law addressing tenant reasonable rent increases. What is the incentive for individuals to invest their lives in Reno if this is your master plan for people with disabilities? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, we have Mr. Levi Hooper, followed by Mr. Sam Dene.
Welcome, Mr. Hooper.
Well, hello there. Hi, everybody. I'm Levi Hooper, the voice of the downtrodden. I'm here today just to say hi and check in like I usually do. But today I'm going to talk about the marijuana tax and stuff here in town and what we do with the dispensaries and stuff. You know, with the Affordable Housing Act, they could maybe use some of the tax money from that to help out with that, maybe, I don't know, something towards that effect. But with a couple of friends I have that were across seas in the military and stuff, have bad post-traumatic stress disorder and stuff, and they use marijuana instead of a lot of pills that the doctors had them on. Over 15 pills some of these guys were on, and the marijuana replaces it. And, you know, I don't believe in like necessarily smoking marijuana to have fun or anything. Not that I do it myself, but the medical side of it's pretty incredible. And I just think this city is really smart for helping people out in dispensaries to have the access to it like that. And the only thing is it's very expensive. Is the tax on it's very expensive, and there's a lot of street dealers that still sell marijuana on the streets in this town that it's probably, I mean, probably over 50-60% of the people that smoke marijuana in this town buy it out of the dispensary, or not from dispensaries, but from street people because of that tax that's on there. It's a huge tax, almost like a $30-40 difference so people are not necessarily going to the dispensaries like they should be. But I don't know if that'd be smarter to bring that down to get more people going there to actually get more revenue that way. But but on the medical side of it, it's incredible. It helps people out. I had an uncle actually who had a HIV. He died a few years ago of AIDS, but he used to use marijuana instead of a lot of medications that they wanted him on also. And he lived like almost 30 years with it, you know. And so I think that had a lot to do with it. But I got this card. It's 7/1/17. This is the date that marijuana was legalized in Reno. And I want to thank Sam Dene for helping it become legalized. And with his bumper stickers, we put out a lot too. But I don't know if anyone's in support of it or not, but I just think that the tax on it should go down a little bit. Maybe it'd help out and whatever. But one other thing too is I don't know if you guys have seen downtown under the bridges on Coonsley, right here by the baseball field where all the tents are at and whatnot. You guys should send a cleanup crew down there. I mean, it's just like piled up with garbage. There's more garbage there than there is trees on the riverbank underneath the bridge right there, you know? So I don't know like how, if you guys have control of that, but it could really use a good cleanup. That's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Sam Dene, followed by Mr. Bill Bonsall.
Overhead, please.
Welcome, Mr. Dene.
Hello, Mr. Hartung. Sam, DNA Dene. That's me, the heart and soul and the body and mind of Reno government.
You're upside down.
Oh, all of you people in the audience, please just stand on your heads. Just kidding. Anyway, I'm responsible for 88% of the good things about Reno. Everything from the Gigafactory to the Saving Burning Man. But all of the rich people are getting richer. And that's why all of these people in the audience are here today. 88% of the people in the audience are here because of the problem with housing, because those rich people are getting richer and richer, and the poor and the downtrodden are staying poor and downtrodden. We need those rich people over there on the other side of the hill, Don Roger Norman, Lance Gilman, to be paying their fair share. Instead, I think that nobody's getting outside of the box. The regular old taxing, tax those people. Don't tax the people who are already paying too much tax right now. I'm in favor of supporting this Affordable Housing Act right here. And Mr. Hooper right over there was absolutely right. I was the person who was the driving force that brought medical marijuana and eventually fund marijuana to Reno. The problem is the taxes are going in the wrong places. Rich are getting richer and poor are staying poor. Tax the medical marijuana. Use that tax for the affordable housing. Does anybody disagree? I don't think so. Doesn't that make sense? Instead, I think they're going to try to tax other people who are already paying too much tax. Tax the marijuana. And there's a lot of other places. You should be taxing the Gigafactory over there. Those guys, Don Roger Norman, they're making all of this money. Mike Kazmierski over at EDON, he brings all of these companies in here,
and they get tax breaks, and the poor companies already working here get driven out of business because their opposition is getting too many tax breaks. As I close out, tomorrow is 9/11 day, the day that our United States, it was the second terrorist attack in the history of America against Americans. The attack before that was the Lockerbie attack against my airline, Pan American World Airways. The thing is, if the government had treated Pan Am properly after Lockerbie, there might not have been a 9/11. The government took all of Pan Am's money away, put it in a fund to give more money to the survivors. And then after 9/11, they finally saw the right thing to do, and then they started paying these responders some kickback money and all that kind of stuff. If they had treated Pan Am properly at Lockerbie, there might not have been a 9/11.
Mr. Dene.
Thank you for thanking me.
And up last is Mr. Bill
And thank everybody in the
Bonsall.
audience.
Mr. Bill Bonsall. Mr. Dene, if I can have what you displayed on the...
Absolutely. Hand them out, please.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning. I'm here today to advise the board of a current county jail booking policy that is a waste of taxpayer dollars and it decreases public safety. I've been working with Ms. Burke Bigler here, and she's been very helpful. I graduated from UNR, got my criminal justice degree, and have been working in law enforcement in California, Santa Clara County. So speaking of housing prices, I am familiar with that problem. Anyways, the issue has come up more than once in the media, and it's because it has attracted the arrest of Wolfpack athletes. The most recent being a softball player. It was a $115 ticket for talking on the cell phone. She lost the ticket, didn't show in court. And the officer pulled over for a registration violation, which she was not cited for. She had the registration paid, didn't have the sticker on. Bottom line is the officer on the street, the Reno PD officer, was forced to take her to jail. Why? Because she failed to appear in court. Why? Because that's the rule here in this county. So you take the Reno PD officer, whose average earning salary is $30 an hour, take him off the street for 2 hours, decrease the calls for service in that area that he just vacated to take her to jail up to par. Then she was in jail for over 8 hours. Jail staff, minimum pay, $30, or average pay, $30 a head. I don't know how many people touched her, processed her, dealt with her for 8 freaking hours. Okay, that's a humongous waste of taxpayer dollars. Speaking of taxpayer dollars, that's a huge waste. And the officer's off the street, not responding to calls, okay? I got a job in my career right after I left here. I've been a career probation officer for 29 years, gonna retire next April. And in our area, and I know nobody likes to be told, hey, we do it better here, whatever. We don't, it's just a different way of addressing the issue. If an officer runs across somebody for a minor misdemeanor, failed to appear in court, the officer then calls his records department. The records department then gets in touch with the court, and they calendar a court date 30 to 45 days out. Okay, Mr. So-and-so, here's your new court date. Done. It's a wrap. The cop is back in service, ready to do his job. She's not in jail, and we didn't waste thousands of taxpayers' dollars on one person for a $100 ticket. And the negative image that goes along with it, with Chris Murray blogging it on Nevada Sports Net, and he's hiding behind, oh, I'm a journalist, I'm just reporting. That's not fair, because the same athlete in San Jose, they're not getting arrested and they're not making the media. But it makes the athletes and the university look bad. And it's an easy fix. I have an appointment on Thursday with the undersheriff to discuss this policy change. And I just want your support, want to advise you guys and to get your support on changing the county policy and current county policy in Santa Clara County. They do not accept a body unless the warrant is $15,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not see anyone else signed up.
Okay, I have no one else signed in wishing to speak under general public comment. Is there anyone who is not signed in who would like to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. Mr. Manager, item number 4.
Mr. Chair, that takes us to item number 4, Commissioners, County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information or topics for future agendas.
Okay. Mr. Manager, do you have any such items?
I just have a couple of items. I just want to make sure, as we discussed at our August 27th meeting, I'm concerned about the safety of our crews and those that we hire to work in the Swan Lake area. So just based on that concern that I have, just wanted to let you all know that I've directed the work crews to stop any work anytime they feel unsafe based on the reactions of our citizens out there in the area. It's very important. One of the things that I want to make sure is our work crews go home every night. Safety is very important to Washoe County as a whole. And so I just want to make sure that that is on the record again for you all. Also, I wanted to just cover really quickly, we've heard from a group of citizens today. As you're aware, Washoe County staff is currently evaluating facility plans, master plans, infrastructure rehabilitation needs that are necessary to provide the services to our citizens. And based on the direction from the board, our finance team is reviewing all possible revenues, the needs of our community, and exploring how to use the existing revenues to address those needs. Any future discussions related to potential revenue sources, either new or existing, to provide the necessary services to our community will occur in a public forum. So that's all I've got today.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and I couldn't agree more with you in terms of the safety of our, our workers. Commissioner Burke-Bickler, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two things. I would like to ask staff if they'd please work with the sheriff on the Quartz Lane issue. It seems a waste of time to have it cleaned up and then have it messed up again. And I am concerned about the homeless who are living in motorhomes up there. We do have homeless issues, we know that, but I don't know that people should be living in, essentially squatting and living in trucks and things like that up there. I think that's very dangerous, especially as winter comes around. So please, if you would work with them. Additionally, for the benefit of the commissioners, I took a tour of Serene, their grow facility in Verdi. If you have not been there, you must go. It is an incredible pharmaceutical level grade facility. Having had a husband who worked in the pharmaceutical industry, I've been in many pharmaceutical facilities, and this one is one of the cleanest facilities I've seen, and the things they're doing there on assuring that they're growing clean, healthy marijuana that isn't compromised by molds or any other things that would injure people. It is just fabulous. And so please, if you get the opportunity, go see it. I loved, the tour was great. So I am concerned also about the affordable housing issue, and I appreciate all of you people being here. Clearly, this is an issue that we are going to have to deal with. The regional master plan is very close to being done, and I believe we will have a presentation made to us probably in October on it. And so it's very close to being done, and it will include a lot of information on housing in general and where we go from there. And yes, I do firmly believe the Housing Trust Fund, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund needs to be funded. The question for us is to figure out where that funding is going to come from. And I think by us, I mean the elected officials in both the two cities as well as in the county. Where are we going to find funding for that trust fund, and how are we going to get it there and assure that it's there and it's really resolved? It's going to resolve some of the issues we need. So we are working on that. We continue to work on that, and I know that it is an issue that concerns all the other commissioners as well as myself. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You touched on some of the items that, that I was going to touch on. I'm just going to do a quick personal note. Ma, if you're watching, my mom's been in the hospital for a week. Get well. You can do it. We'll break you out as soon as we can. She referred to it as Auschwitz. She did. She just feels like she's interned, and at 91, it's been very, very difficult on her. So I'm praying for you, Ma. Hang in there. Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Commissioner Burke-Bickler. Commissioner Jung, do you have anything? Okay. All right, Mr. Manager, item number 5.
Mr. Chair, that takes us to the consent agenda, items 5A1 through 5D. And we do have Rebecca Kepler from RTC here for 5B1.
Okay.
I believe there's a quick little presentation on that for you all.
Okay.
Good
Welcome.
morning. Thank you. I'm, for the record, Rebecca Capular with RTC, and I want to thank the commission for allowing me to come and talk about Vision Zero today. My presentation is very brief. As I hope you've heard about us, we are a task force that has been meeting since October of 2017. We formulated after the 2017 Safety Summit, and we had a day-and-a-half workshop about pedestrian safety in the community. We decided at that point we needed to take action, and as you can see, we have roughly 15+ agencies joining our coalition or task force, and we're growing rapidly as we've been gaining a lot of momentum lately. We have identified some action or some focus areas in the early beginning of our task force meetings. We started looking at downtown Sparks, West 4th Street, Midtown, and the university. And on our website, which is visionzerotrekkingmeadows.com, we have data that shows what kind of trends we found over a period between January 1, 2011 through December 31st, 2017. We used that information to identify some goals that we wanted to do as a task force, and we put together an action plan, which I believe you've gotten in your packet, and if you haven't, that's also on our website, the draft plan. There's 3 components to our plan: programmatic on how we continue to build our task force, street design and infrastructure, looking at methods of learning from serious crashes and fatalities on a way we can learn from them without placing blame, and seeing how we can prevent them. The philosophy behind Vision Zero is every crash is a learning point and preventable, and so we want to eliminate fatalities in Washoe County. And the third component is community engagement. And we have our ideas and action plan, but we can't get any further unless we get the community behind us. So I'm going to just touch on one of all the goals in each of those 3 areas. There's a lot of goals there, but the main one is 0 fatalities by 2030. And the goal in my house is 0 fatalities. And when people say, well, is that realistic? I like to tell them it's realistic for me. So I hope it's realistic for you too. And so that's what our committee is committing to. And the second is with the street infrastructure and design. We went out in November of last year and talked to face-to-face over 550 pedestrians and heard from them what issues they're having. And running concurrently with that, we did an online survey, and we got over 1,000 surveys back from people who I call the drivers because they weren't out in the field. And there was a disconnect on lighting. For example, the pedestrians we talked to, by over 78% said they feel that they're crossing at night in well-lit areas at intersections and they're following rules of the road. However, the online surveys came back by over 78% saying at night they feel they can't see pedestrians. So with that, it was a real eye-opener for us. And we took that and put that into our action plan that we need to stand together and do a lighting study and see what needs to happen in that example. And then the last one, under community engagement, in our action plan, one of the items we put in there is to pursue and establish pedestrian zones. That's important because 2 legislation meetings ago, I can't talk very well, sessions ago, they passed that we could do pedestrian safety zones. Those are very similar to a work zone where anybody who's misbehaving in one will get double fined. None have been established yet in the state of Nevada, and we're working with all of our partners, which includes City of Reno, Washoe County, City of Sparks, all the local jurisdictions, law enforcement, first responders, to look at crash trends, see where problems are, and then establish those so we can get some education out there. So again, our goal is 0 fatalities by 2030, and some people have talked to us about we're looking at pedestrians as our #1 priority, and this slide up here will explain to you why we start with pedestrians. Of all the crashes that were involved pedestrians between 2013 and 17, 24% of them were ending up in a serious crash or fatality. If you were in a bicycle crash in that same time period, 10% were a fatality or serious crash. But of drivers, 2%. So we can see that the pedestrian is the most vulnerable road user. And we understand that when we make the road safer for the pedestrian, the most vulnerable person out there, in turn, we make it safer for all road users. So that's our main focus, and in turn, will make the road safer for all Washoe County residents. So we have been very busy. We've gotten resolutions passed by the RTC Board, City of Reno, City of Sparks, Board of Health, and today is the last one with Washoe County. So I'm hoping that you guys will be able to stand up and support Vision Zero and our action plan. And then our next step is we're submitting an application to the Vision Zero Network to become the first Vision Zero community in the state of Nevada. Our goal is to get that award and announce it at the Safety Summit, which is next month here in Sparks at the Nugget. And you'll all get invited to that because we're going to have a big safety celebration and press conference to announce this awesome news once we get approved for that. And a lot of our members couldn't be here today, but I do want to highlight that Officer Cloud with Washoe County School District is here to support us. If you have any questions for me or the coalition, she can also help, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have and go from there. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I know we just recently had another fatality on Sun Valley Boulevard. Very tragic. So I'm thrilled that RTC is really looking at this with a very close eye.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, we also started planning ahead because the time change is quickly approaching, November
Yes.
3rd. We have a great partnership with NDOT. Last year, they gave us over 4,000 reflective backpacks that we were able to get out to the community.
I remember that, yeah.
And we targeted seniors and people in transition or homeless because they were, for 2019, kind of the folks that we've been seeing who've been getting hit. So we're continuing that outreach.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Manager, let's consent. I do. So let's go through the consent. And is there anything that anyone wants pulled or needs any more explanation on? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move approval of the consent agenda?
I have a motion by Commissioner Burke-Bigler, second by Commissioner Jung. Mr. Clerk, is there any public comment on any of the items in consent?
I do not see anyone signed in.
Okay. I will close public comment. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And are there any opposed? Motion carried. Excuse me. Okay. Mr. Manager.
How about a block vote?
Okay.
Yep, that'll take us to item number 6.
Item
unless you
number
wanna
6.
Propose a block.
And for a block vote, Commissioner Burke-Bigler.
Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to request a block vote. I request that we put item number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in a block vote.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Burke-Bigler, second by Commissioner Jung. Mr. Manager, will you read those items, and then I will call public comment?
I will. Item number 6 is a recommendation to approve a request and initiate proceedings to amend Washoe County Code, Chapter 65, to include the Washoe County School District and the Washoe County Department of Alternative Sentencing as eligible entity or agencies for funding related to portable event recording devices and vehicular event recording devices in accordance with Senate Bill 89 from the 80th Legislative Session, to clarify the powers and duties of the 911 Emergency Response Advisory Committee, and to amend provisions relating to the advisory committee's membership, the term of appointment, and the quorum provisions, and direct the county clerk to submit a request to the district attorney's office for preparation of the proposed ordinance pursuant to Washoe County Code Section 2.030 and 2.040. Item number 7 is a recommendation to approve the Blackstone Estates Park Agreement between Washoe County and J.C. Blackstone LLC for the use of residential construction tax funds not to exceed $280,000 to build the Blackstone Estates Park. Item number 8 is a recommendation to award a bid and approve the agreement to the lowest responsible bidder for the Mustang Road Improvement Project, PWP-WA 2018-191. Staff recommends Sierra Nevada Construction in the amount of $359,007. Item number 9 is a recommendation to award request for proposal 3087-19 for operators of women's and family supportive community on and off the campus of the Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services to Alta Vista Mental Health LLC for the term of 9 months, commencing October 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, with the provision for 4 one-year renewals in the amount not to exceed $391,233.15 for the first 9 months, and an amount not to exceed $521,644.20 annually, and if approved, authorize the purchasing and contracts manager to execute the agreement. And item number 10 is a recommendation to award request for proposal 3089-19 to Valley Services, Inc., in support of the Washoe County Human Services Agency Senior Nutrition Program, including congregate and Meals on Wheels services for the period of October 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020, with the provision for 4 one-year renewals in the amount not to exceed $1,387,604 annually, and if approved, authorize the purchasing and contracts manager to execute the agreement.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone signed in for public comment?
Mr. Chair, I don't see anyone signed in on those items.
Okay. Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Burke-Bigler. We have a second by Commissioner Jung. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Manager, item.
Mr. Chair, that'll take us to.
There it is. Whoops. There it goes. There it is. Okay, Mr. Manager, item number 11.
All right, Mr. Chair, that'll take us to our public hearing for the day, item number 11, which is a second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending Washoe County Code at Chapter 110.
Okay. Welcome. All right. Mr. Clerk, will you go ahead and read?
If adopted, Mr. Chair, this will bear ordinance number 1642, and it reads, an ordinance amending the Washoe County Code at Chapter 110, Development Code, within Article 410, Parking and Loading Table, 110.410.10.3, off-street parking space requirements, commercial use types, to reduce the requirement for 1 parking space per storage unit to 1 parking space per 2,000 square feet of building footprint, and for other matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto. And this was previously issued Bill number 1829.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone signed in for public comment?
I do not have anyone signed in.
Okay. All right, I will close public comment. We have no questions. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman, bill number 1642. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Jung, second by Commissioner Burke-Bigler. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm not going to ask for nays because I can hear everybody. And waiting for it to come up on the screen.
Sorry, Mr. Clerk, will be there 1 second.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your votes. Thank you. Mr. Manager, item number 12.
Mr. Chair, today we do not have a need for a possible closed session for labor, so we can take
Okay.
that one and move on to item number 13, which is our last public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, do you have anyone signed in for public comment?
I have no one signed in, but I did receive email correspondence from Miss Anne Marie Grant, which I will place on the record.
Thank you so much. Okay, I will close public comment. Our final commissioner comments. Anything? Commissioners, we're adjourned.